Hello everyone, it's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel. Tap the notification bell. I would appreciate it majorly. So the last video, I made about the two missing kids from Rexburg, Idaho, J.J. Vallow, Lori, and Tylee Ryan, and their mom and stepdad, Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell. The two kids remain missing. Lori and Chad's whereabouts is basically known, or at least they were found in Hawaii. They had been there for some time. I think the authorities knew that. Whatever. But the last video, I was taking a look at the coroner in Chandler, Arizona, where Charles Vallow was shot and killed. Supposedly in self-defense, and the dude Jeffrey Johnston was his name, and actually he's the coroner of Maricopa County. Chandler is in Maricopa County, and I ended up at. Because I saw the news article about they had outsourced a large part of their lab. Basically, all the toxicology reports would be done by an outside firm, actually based near here in Philadelphia. NMS Labs, I think that's National Medical Services Laboratories, and I don't even know how big of a company it is. It's fairly large, and it's growing. It's definitely growing in my view. Actually, they're based in Horsham. I know they have. I don't know if they have two facilities: a lab in Horsham, lab in Willow Grove. Maybe they bought another Texas lab company. I think in 2013. I think there's 3 labs down there, and I think they're in other states as well. But I was this time, and I had I showed you a bunch of stuff in that last video. I'm not redoing that. I'm taking. Well, the reason I did that is because of my whole theory. Okay, that I had this theory that Charles Vallow somehow managed to fake his own death, and that's why I began looking at the coroner in Maricopa County. And it's just a theory and all. But I will say, as I look into this more and more, I'm believing my own theory. I'm lots more and more, definitely. And so this time I decided to take a look at the coroner in Rexburg, Idaho, which is Madison County. And that's the coroner. That's the guy's name right there, Sam Butikofer. And that's a dated picture somewhat. He's and he just became the coroner in January of 2019. Here's a profile from a local news outlet, local paper, the Standard Journal, when he was running for coroner. This is from May 2018, and it just gives some background about him and why he thinks he's qualified. It's his own words, I believe, in terms of his background, his career, and he has a fairly, lengthy career. And I think he also teaches nursing at BYU, worked at Merck for 20 years, has a nursing degree of some kind, maybe even a doctorate as well, EMT experience, and so forth. And then it goes on to why he thinks he'd make a best coroner and other things, and what he hopes to achieve possibly. So and he, like I said, he became coroner in January of 2019. But I didn't find any connection to NMS laboratories or labs. But and then it's interesting because in one of his goals, or like what he states, what he hopes to achieve, should I be elected, what changes would you like to make? He says, I would like to work with the state of Idaho to bring a medical examiner closer to our area because our current medical examiner is located in Boise. This would significantly reduce transport costs, personnel resources, etc. It's not terribly important. But when I saw that, I immediately thought, that's almost the same scenario where they're on the verge of outsourcing a lot of the toxicology lab, requirements to an outside firm, which I think is a fairly a common trend, But I don't know that if that's actually taking place. And Idaho's got a really strange. This isn't terribly important. It just is kind of just worth noting because it seems like, I don't know, that Idaho might, if you were planning on faking your death, Idaho might be one of the top states to do it, And that's being a little bit facetious, but so be it. Because and there's a new coroner there now as of 2014. I forget her name, and actually it wasn't even. It was a little bit beyond this. This is talking about the upcoming election, because the coroner prior to 2014 had been there in Boise, Idaho, had been there for like 30 years, and Boise, Idaho basically did all the autopsies for half the counties in the entire state, and they would basically charge a fee to all these other counties to do it and so forth. It's just a very unusual system. They explain that in here, that it's very odd. They charge a fee to other counties, and that actually, whatever, whether there's economic benefits to the Boise County for that, who cares? But it's just unusual, and it seems like the whole state's medical examiner situation is a little bit disorganized. Okay, so in any event, but I never did make any connection to NMS Labs. But for some reason, I don't know what, I remembered, I don't know what it was, that somebody had said something about, Chad Daybell being excommunicated or something like. Something triggered in my brain to go look that back up, and I saw the Daily Mail article about it. Here it is right here. Exclusive cult leader on the run with mom whose kids have been missing since September. Declared himself a prophet, wrote 25 books on prepping for the apocalypse, and was thrown out of the Mormon church after children vanished. Now, I don't know that that's all together. And this is Martin Gold over at the Daily Mail, and I think he actually went to Rexburg, Idaho, as well as Hawaii, I believe. In any event, this is a fairly old article, and I don't even know how, if that's entirely accurate. There's some other persons commenting on it. They basically say that he had some kind of disciplinary review of him, but wasn't altogether excommunicated. It's not totally clear. And the person they talked to, Dr. Christina Rossetti, who I believe is, based in Salt Lake, Utah, which is, I guess, like the epicenter of all Mormon Latter-day Saints stuff. Latter-day Saints, and I remember seeing an article about this not long ago. And it's not, I don't know how wealthy the Catholic Church is. It's a good question. But the Latter-day Saints Church, very powerful, extremely powerful, very wealthy. One estimate that I have right there, it says, that the church is worth like $200 billion. Okay? No joke, dude. All right? The whistleblower estimates a closer net worth figure of the church could be $200 billion or more when you include EPA, along with vast agricultural and property holdings. Real estate seems to play heavy in this story. I find it again and again, and all these individuals that I'm looking at, many of them have some knowledge or work in real estate in one way or another. And I think holdings of real estate is just a big thing going on here. And there may be a reason for that. I think there is, dude. So, but back to the excommunication of Chad Daybell. And so, this is one of those forums that has kind of covered this whole case and story extensively, and it's talking about that and whether, it seems that the source for the excommunication claim came from Dr. Christina Rossetti, who has clarified herself on Twitter now. And actually, this is her on Twitter right now here, saying, here's the original thing. I just got off the phone with Daily Mail UK about the Chad Daybell story. I can't speak to the murders and disappearances. I can only speak about the Mormon connection. To me, the extraordinary part of these stories is that they are no longer extraordinary. That doesn't really say much. But then she goes on to say, here, worth noting that Daybell had a disciplinary council. It's not confirmed whether he was excommunicated. Julie Rowe was. Julie Rowe is another person I don't even feel like getting into. It's not necessarily important. Frankly, I think it's a humongous distraction, like many things in this story. Big time. Everybody's trying to confuse you and tell you some fantasy, some fairy tale that you think, it sounds interesting and intriguing and mysterious, and it's all baloney, and there's something entirely different going on that's probably highly criminal in nature. Like highly. So she's, and it goes on to say in this thing, just so you kind of know how it works in the Latter-day Saints, how they disciplined persons, and the final most worst thing being excommunicated or whatever, it says it doesn't really have bearing on the whereabouts of the kids, but it does help clarify. That's what she said a second ago. I just read that. One can have a disciplinary council and have no change outcome, probation period, disfellowship, or excommunication. So I think he had the disciplinary council. When he had that, is this before Tammy Daybell died, after Tammy Daybell died? We don't know. Okay, we don't know. My question is, I mean, I love how these people, they keep saying he's the leader of a cult or they're part of a cult, but like it seems like they're the only members of the cult, or maybe not. But I don't even think there is a cult. That is a bunch of baloney, dude. Okay, yes, I believe these people have deep religious beliefs, but they're not motivated by some cult. That's not what's motivating them, in my opinion. It's this, dude. It's cash. It's money. Okay. And I've been talking about life insurance and for some time, pretty much only all this time. But I've thought this all along, but I just couldn't explain it without completely turning everybody off, or completely losing you, that just has to be much bigger than life insurance. You don't go through all this trouble for some life insurance payments. You're probably getting, that's probably in the mix. But I just think there's something much bigger going on, dude. I mean, I just can't believe people would stick their neck out this much for a life insurance payment, And then the various people that are basically, interjected into this. In any event, so it just was starting to occur to me, what's his church? Where's the church that they're talking about that he was excommunicated from? And the reason I kind of thought that at the same time that I was looking at something else, and here's Chad Daybell's home up here in Rexburg, Idaho, or Salem, Idaho, I think, which is just north of Rexburg, Idaho. But it has a Rexburg, Idaho mailing address. I'm not real sure. It's only like 2.6 miles from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I saw this before I saw Chad Daybell's house. I put Chad Daybell's house in there to see how far it was from it. Because when I saw this, I was looking at somebody else's property. I was looking at this dude's property, okay, he could roll out of bed to go to that church, okay? He lives less than a half a mile from there, all right? As well as another property or two properties, a plot of farmland, and another home that's in another family trust, right? I don't know how many family trusts or revocable trusts or, irrevocable trusts I've seen in the last month. So, I assume he belongs to that church. So the coroner that, is the person who's determining the nature of Tammy Daybell's death, who only lives, 2.5 miles from Chad Daybell, goes to the same church and he lives, less than a half a mile from the church. And his family is just heavily into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He's got 4 different family members who work exclusively for the church in different cities. One in Salt Lake City, one in Poway, California, one in Anchorage, Alaska. Another person is on a missionary in Oregon. Just seems to be pretty committed to the church that he lives a half a mile away from, that supposedly maybe excommunicated Chad Daybell, and is the coroner who's determining the nature of his wife's death. Okay, and I've been saying that, I thought Tammy Daybell was maybe terminally ill, and she just, for the sake of her family to get the best payout possible, just sort of concealed that and just stage her death in a way that it will look like it was either suspicious, that'd be better than terminal illness because you still get paid, or whatever, or that she was poisoned. So, but I tell you, as I look into this more and more, I am believing my theory. Okay, It's just a theory, but I personally, if you force me to guess right now, I would say to you, I believe Tammy Daybell is alive. Okay, that's what I think. And we'll see. We'll see. Believe me, there's much more. Okay, and one of the things. And this just resembles another situation totally that I talked about in my last video. Actually, I concluded with it because NMS labs also happen to be the laboratory, the firm that handled some of the toxicology report for Stephen Craig Paddock in the Las Vegas shooting. I didn't go through that autopsy in detail or anything like that. But there's other things about this for sure that have a very strong resemblance to the Las Vegas shooting. No doubt about it. Okay. And there are things that I encountered myself, that I've talked about myself, that many people have tried to persuade me and take me away from and get me away from it because, for obvious reasons, because I was going in the right direction. But one of his relatives, one of this dude's relatives, the coroner's relatives, is a paramedic in Saudi Arabia. This was just this most striking thing to me. And the same exact thing happened when I was looking into certain persons that seemed to be connected to one creator who was covering the Las Vegas shooting, and there was his attorney and his brother and his uncle that lived in Oregon somewhere. And I thought his uncle was making videos about Las Vegas shooting. It's not real important, but I remember seeing that his brother and I think even his uncle too both had visited Saudi Arabia. One of them had a picture of something that you only get in Saudi Arabia, or that was a type of fruit. There's a picture of figs, and said, "Oh, they're so great. They're from Saudi Arabia." I'm like, man, that's weird. Being that the Las Vegas shooting happened one floor beneath the 4 floors that are owned by the Saudis. So I don't know. And by the way, this is her. Before I quickly just go on to I just quickly did a little search of is there any connection going on between Utah and Saudi Arabia? Are Saudis making a big investment in Utah, or, in the Latter-day Saints or whatever? So. But this is Dr. Rosati here. This is the same person who commented on Chad Daybell being excommunicated, talking about the LeBaron family, the women and children that were slaughtered in Mexico. They were all Latter-day Saints, Mormons, and they were supposedly fundamentalists, maybe an offshoot or whatever you want to call it. And here she's talking about that some of them were had plurality, meaning had multiple wives and stuff, and whichever. But that always struck me as the strangest thing. Just out of the clear blue sky, cartels in Mexico and northern Mexico slaughter women and children, and for no explanation, do you really think that's just random? Do you think that has nothing to do with what the cartels typically are associated with? In any event, so I was just curious if Utah's got anything going on with Saudi Arabia, and sure enough, and it's coming up in April 14th through April 24th, the World Trade Center Utah, along with the Governor's Office of Economic Development, are taking a trip to Saudi Arabia and I don't exactly know what, I'm not here. I've looked into more than this, believe me. There's even more. I'm going to stop, but there's so much more. So the World Trade Center Utah, in partnership with the Governor's Office of Economic Development, is coordinating an official state trade mission led by Governor Gary R. Herbert to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. The cities of Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai offer tremendous opportunities for Utah companies interested in increasing their footprint in the Middle East. The trade mission will take place from April 14th through the April 24th. And the World Trade Center, Utah, they're housed in a building that's, I think it's called the City Creek Reserve. I don't know what it's called. Where? Let me bring it up. I saw it. They're on they're number 300 in the building. World Trade Center, Utah, right there. That's the building right there. And their number 60S Temple, number 30. Okay. And that entire building is owned by an incorporation called the City Creek Reserve Inc. And that is the development arm, the building development arm of the Church of Latter-day Saints. The building's worth, or at least the last assessment was $94 million. It says here that the Latter-day Saints Church-owned developer, that's the City Creek, whatever I just said, City Creek Reserve Inc., proposes new high-rise in downtown Salt Lake City. This is November 2nd, 2018. The Salt Lake City Planning Commission approved the height variance. The developer that is responsible for several Salt Lake City's largest real estate projects is proposing a new downtown high-rise tower. City Creek Reserve Inc., the real estate arm of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, submitted renderings to the Salt Lake City Planning Commission this week depicting what the proposed 28 tower would look like. I mean, wouldn't it be weird if the Saudis ended up owning some of those floors on that building? I'm not saying that that's going to happen there, but I'm just saying the resemblances, and there are much more that I haven't really gotten into yet, and I'm not going to in this video. Believe me, okay? The resemblances to Las Vegas are. It's not a pipe dream of mine. You know it, dude. And that's the story there, man. That is the story there. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. See you in the next video. Later, man.